What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. Today's episode is going to be focusing on NXT UK from December the 5th and the NXT episode from that same day, December the 5th. But before we get started, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on the sad news of the passing of Tom Billington, the Dynamite Kid. Tom Billington sadly passed away this week at the age of 60 years old. Billington was known for bringing his own version of strong style to the wrestling world before strong style was even a thing, as well as a blistering array of suplexes and high-flyer moves that labelled him as an innovator of his times. His matches with the original Tiger Mask from the early 1980s were truly remarkable and held in the highest of standards even to this day. Dynamite was part of the ever-popular and very successful British Bulldogs tag team with Davey Boy Smith until they left for All Japan in 1988. Dynamite and Davey never really saw eye to eye after that, especially when Davey Boy rejoined the WWF back in 1990 to start his singles career with the company. Billington and his style will always be remembered as a true pioneer of the wrestling world, especially for the smaller generation of wrestlers that were to follow in his footsteps. He inspired many of the most famous wrestlers in the world, including the likes of Chris Benoit, Brian Pillman and Chris Jericho. However, the punishment he put on his body was the catalyst for his eventual disabilities, and Dynamite was unfortunately wheelchair-bound from his early 40s. I did have the pleasure of watching Dynamite once around 1994 when he was part of a six-man tag in an All-Stars show at the Town Hall in Oxford. However, it is widely reported that Billington had his dark side, especially in his personal life. However, many wrestling fans will have fond memories of his wrestling style, his success in the ring, and the legacy that he gave to future generations of wrestlers who he inspired to do great things in the squared circle. So, moving on, NXT UK, the 5th of December. This week's episode starts with a graphic of Jordan Devlin, who will be going up against Flash Morgan Webster in the main event of this first hour. But first off, we see Joe Coffey. No obvious sign of who his opponent is going to be. Joe Coffey, along with Wolfgang and Mark Coffey, make their way to the ring, and this trio has been setting a path of violence in recent weeks as they set their sights on Pete Dunne and British Strong Style. Joe Coffey has the mic in the centre of the ring. He says that they have been called ruthless, devious and underhanded, and they are all right. The NXT UK is yours, Mark, and yours, Wolfie, and this is our kingdom. British Strong Style, we stood across the ring from you. I could see it, I could smell it, and there is no such thing as big strong boys anymore. The noise in NXT UK is Gallus, and we run NXT. So it looks like the Coffeys and Wolfgang are going by the moniker of Gallus as their stable name. Then Travis Banks arrives on the stage. When Coffey asks him where he's been, Coffey goes on to say that it was them that put him on the shelf in Cambridge. Joe Coffey challenged Travis to a fight, but this is short-lived as Mark and Wolfgang get involved in a 3-on-1 attack of Travis Banks until Moustache Mountain, and the music starts signalling the arrival of Tyler Bates and Trent Seven, evening up the numbers, and it looks as though we could be seeing a 3-on-3 match in the near future. And remember that Moustache Mountain have a history with the trio of the Coffeys and Wolfgang, who are now going to be named as Gallus. We then get a backstage interview with Fabian Eichner, who is set to make his NXT UK debut against Mark Andrews next. In another backstage interview, Radzi is talking to Jordan Devlin, who says Pete Dunne has been UK champion for over 500 days, and he was able to do what no one else has been able to do when he struck fear and shock into Pete Dunne as he came close to losing his title. He sends out a warning to Webster ahead of their match tonight, and after he beats Webster tonight, he's setting his sights on another championship match against Pete Dunne. So, we have Fabian Eichner versus Mark Andrews next. Eichner is the current Evolve champion after beating Shane Strickland in October over in the States, and recently defended his title against Cassius Ohno in their latest Evolve show, successfully defended his title. However, he's up against Mark Andrews in his NXT debut tonight, and both men shake hands prior to the start of this match. Some amazing offense by Andrews in this match as he takes Eichner to the outside with an around the world head scissors before nailing a dive through the ropes, taking Eichner off his feet. This was short-lived. Once back inside the ring as Eichner hits a massive backbreaker for a 2 count, appearing to injure Mark Andrews' back. Eichner, clearly the stronger of the two, is not getting much offence against a much faster, high-flying Andrews as he is hit with an enziguri and a corkscrew senton for a 2 count. Andrews is selling the back after the backbreaker from Eichner in the early stages, but is still able to reverse a suplex attempt into a Hurricane Rana for a close near fall in the move of the match so far. Andrews hits a 619 but couldn't follow it up as Eichner dumps Andrews to the canvas, adding extra punishment to his already injured back. Eichner nails Andrews with a wicked 360-degree lariat, but soon after Andrews is able to hit a Stun Dog Millionaire from out of nowhere. The crowd chanting NXT as both competitors lay motionless on the canvas at this point. Andrews makes his way to the top rope to attempt a leaping stun dog, only to be caught by Eichner in midair, allowing him to hit a wicked brainbuster for another 2 count. Eichner shows that he has some ability in the air as well as he springboards himself up onto the top rope before leaping across to the next rope to attempt a moonsault, unfortunately finding nothing but canvas on this occasion as Andrews is able to move before pulling himself back up to his feet for a leaping somersault DDT for the closest 2 count of the match so far. Andrews lands on his feet from a top rope moonsault, but is only pulled to the outside for his troubles, only to be shoved into the ring steps before being nailed with a running knee, smashing the back of Andrews' head into the ring steps. That looks vicious. After Andrews narrowly avoided being counted out following this exchange on the outside, Eichner picks Andrews up with a spinning powerbomb and gets the pinfall victory. An impressive win there for Fabian Eichner. That was a super impressive match with an awesome way to start this show, this episode of NXT UK. It must have been amazing to witness the match live at the Plymouth Pavilion in person. Both men pulled off some amazing moves during this match, with Andrews showing me more than I've seen from him so far in NXT UK. He's always been a little bit generic, pulling out the same old moves in previous episodes, but I think he definitely showed his best performance here against Fabian Eichner. Eichner, on the other hand, demonstrated that he was not only a powerhouse to this match, but he can also show some innovation, some innovative offense on the ground as well as in the air when needed. I can easily understand now why he is the Evolve champion, and with that performance it won't be long before his name is being mentioned in other championship conversations. This was a match that you have to go out of your way to see. Brilliant way to open the episode tonight. A really top-notch match. Can't wait to see Fabian Eichner again. These two had an outstanding match tonight. We then get a vignette from Isla Dawn, the White Witch of NXT. Once again, another vignette that did what it was designed to do, and a great piece of character development that we don't always get to see on the main roster, as I've mentioned many times before. But you do here in NXT UK. Isla Dawn will be going up against Nina Samuels next. Next, we see a backstage segment with NXT General Manager Johnny Saints, where he announces that Sid Scala will be the assistant to the General Manager to help keep on top of things here in NXT UK. Then, the new NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley enters the picture, asking them to find her some suitable competition. So we go to the match, Isla Dawn versus Nina Samuels. The White Witch, Isla Dawn, makes her impressive entrance for the match with Nina Samuels. The women's roster in NXT UK is as deep as any other women's roster in the WWE right now, and these two are right up there with the best in NXT UK. Samuels slows the pace down to her level with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker on Dawn. However, Dawn strikes back with a couple of stiff forearm smashes, a kick to the face of Samuels, followed by a backdrop driver and a knee strike before finishing her opponent off with a gut-wrench suplex for the pinfall victory in quick fashion. It appears that WWE and NXT UK think highly of Viola Dawn and possibly have big things in store for her. We then get a video package from last week's NXT UK Women's Championship tournament final match between Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley. Storm mentions in the video that for a few seconds she lost feeling and it made her appreciate how lucky she was, and she realised that this was it, this was all she has. Toni went on to say that she realises that Rhea Ripley went on to become the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion, but she'll be the best NXT UK Women's Champion. This was another great piece of character development for Toni Storm to help get across more of her personality. Next we have a match between Tucker and Denis. Denis comes to the ring looking as intense as always. Denis punishes Tucker with a backbreaker for a 2 count before battering him with several hard forearms to the back of his head and some big knees to the stomach of Tucker. Tucker is able to escape Denis's offense with some quick pace and a second rope back elbow before Denis wallops Tucker with a huge clothesline. Followed by his 7-bridge buckle bomb before finishing Tucker off with his next stop driver for the win. Not a lot of offense put in from Tucker there, however, this was leading to Eddie Denis to a relatively easy victory as the man from Cardiff remains undefeated in NXT UK. We then see a tweet from Johnny Saint saying that we will have a match next week between Travis Banks and Wolfgang. We will likely see that in hour 2 of tonight's episode, so stay tuned. However, our next match is the main event of hour 1, Jordan Devlin versus Flash Morgan Webster. Jordan Devlin is my guy, and he's fast becoming a total package in British and Irish wrestling, with recent matches between Pete Dunne and Chris Ridgway being reviewed here on Wrestling with Johners. Jordan described Morgan as a joker in his Backstage interview earlier, but Morgan Webster is one of the most talented competitors in NXT UK and will be some tough competition for Devlin tonight. The match really gets going when Devlin hits Webster with a slam and a standing moonsault combo for a 2 count. Devlin adds insult to injury when an inverted backbreaker before nailing his opponent with a wicked clothesline before applying an abdominal stretch on Webster. Webster comes flying out of the corner with a flying knee to the chest of Devlin, flooring him, and he makes a spirited comeback with a couple of drop kicks before hitting a top rope Hurricane Rana, but only for a 2 count. Devlin regains control with a face wash boot to Webster in the corner, followed by his patented ripcord backdrop driver for an impressive close near fall. And that move just astounds me every single time. Truly awesome move. Webster stuns Devlin with a big headbutt, sending the Irishman to the outside. Webster hits the Rude Boy block off the steel steps onto the outside, but Flash may have injured himself more with that move as he climbs to the top rope for a huge top rope somersault senton, only to be caught by the raised knees of Devlin, allowing him to hit his Irish core finisher for the hard-fought win against the spirited Flash Morgan Webster. Before we get stuck into hour 2 of NXT UK from this week, just a quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Finishing Move Limited, specialising in the simple, stylish and versatile to help you elevate your everyday. Check out their Instagram at Finishing Move Limited and find their elevated essentials range at finishingmovelimited.com. So, we're back for hour 2 of NXT UK from the Plymouth Pavilion. They open the show advertising a match tonight between the returning Travis Banks and Wolfgang, as well as an appearance from the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. The first match of this second hour is between Joseph Connors and Dan Maloney. We last saw Connors after his victory against his former tag team partner Saxton Huxley, and it isn't long before Joseph Connor takes control in this match against Dan Maloney. The fans are firmly behind Dan Maloney, and he is able to put together some offense against Connors, including an impressive spinebuster for a 2 count. This is all short-lived, however, from Maloney as Connor strikes back with a sunset buckle bomb before finishing Maloney off with his Don't Look Down facebuster for the win after only 4 minutes. Joseph Connors has looked very impressive over recent weeks and could be a force to be reckoned with in the future. We will hopefully see a new feud and some tougher competition for Connors very soon. We then get a backstage confrontation between Isla Dawn and NXT UK Women's Champion Rhea Ripley, possibly leading to a title match between these two very soon. We then get a confrontation outside the arena between Mustache Mountain duo of Tyler Bates and Trent Seven as they're taunted by Gallus, Mark and Joe Coffey and Wolfgang. They almost get into a scuffle in the parking lot before Johnny Sate and Sid Scala gets involved to break the two teams up. Next we have Wild Boar Mark Hitchman versus the Bomber Dave Mastiff. This match should be one to watch between two very unique, tough and unpredictable individuals. Mastiff starts the match by unleashing several elbows onto Hitchman, but Hitchman does manage to get Mastiff down onto his knees before hitting a senton onto the back onto the big man in the corner. Hitchman's offense is short-lived as Mastiff strikes with a series of punches followed by a running senton. After a brief comeback from Hitchman, Mastiff nails Wild Boar with a drop kick, sending Hitchman flying into the corner before squashing him with a running cannonball for the easy 1-2-3, keeping Dave Mastiff undefeated in the process. There are just a few individuals that still remain undefeated to the best of my knowledge in NXT UK, with Mastiff being one of those. It'll be interesting to see what they have in store for the big man. We may not have long to wait to see what's in store for him, as we see him in a backstage segment saying that he's heading straight for the top as another undefeated NXT UK competitor, Eddie Denis, looks on in the background. Tyson Tbone is up against Leggero next. Leggero is announced as being from Leeds, England, although I was certain that he was a Mexican native. The things you learn, eh? This was a competitive match between Tbone and Leggero that went over 6 minutes, with Leggero coming out the victor after a hard-fought battle, finishing his opponent off with a top rope frog splash, and is in the process of putting together an impressive winning streak following his one and only loss to Jordan Devlin a few weeks ago. Then we get an appearance from the first ever and current NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley. She's all about opportunities, she says. She took her opportunity and became the champion, and she has handpicked someone out the back to be given an opportunity of a lifetime. Out comes Candy Floss, who is likely to be an easy opponent for the champ. Candy Floss hits a drop kick to the surprise of Ripley, motivating the champion to hit a drop kick of her own to regain control of the match, with some kicks and punches in the corner before executing her Riptide pump handle slam for the easy win. After the win, Ripley lifts her opponent off the floor before raising her hand to show a sign of sportsmanship before nailing Candy Floss from behind with a clothesline to the back of the head before laying in a brutal attack on the defensive youngster, sending out a clear message to the rest of the females in the locker room. Then we see a backstage interview with Flash Morgan Webster before he spots and approaches Fabian Eichner. Webster says that he didn't appreciate how he took advantage of his tag partner Mark Andrews last week. Eichner told Webster that if he has such a problem with how he conducts himself in the ring, why doesn't he do something about it in the ring next week? Morgan Webster accepts his challenge, and the match will be taking place next week. Then we get a segment backstage from Sid Scala as he announces next week's main event between Trent Seven and Joe Coffey, as well as news about the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. Then we have our main event for hour 2, Wolfgang versus Travis Banks. Wolfgang is accompanied by Gallus. He's Gallus teammates of Joe and Mark Coffey. This will be the first match for Travis Banks on NXT UK TV, and we have not seen him inside an NXT ring since the finals of the UK Championship tournament this summer, when he lost in the final of the tournament against Zach Gibson at the Royal Albert Hall. It was soon after this that Travis was supposedly attacked by members of Gallus, who put him out of action until very recently. We also saw Travis Banks at Progress Chapter 78 when he came out to attack Ilya Dragunov and David Starr, causing an end to their match in Manchester, setting up a feud with Dragunov on that brand. However, back to tonight, Banks unloads on Wolfgang with stiff forearms, rocking Wolfgang to start the match, followed by several strong kicks and stomps, knocking Wolfgang into the corner. Wolfgang takes the upper hand by running Banks shoulder first into the ring post, sending him to the outside. Then, like a pack of dogs, Joe and Mark Coffey surround Banks, distracting him long enough for Wolfgang to drive Banks' shoulder first into the ring steps. Once back inside the ring, Banks hits a running dropkick, sending Wolfie into the corner before nailing him with a double stomp, sending him to the mats back outside. Then in the move of the night, Banks launches himself off the top rope with a stomp to the back of Wolfgang's head for a 2 count. In a predictable turn of events, Mark Coffey gets up on the ring apron to distract Banks, allowing Wolfgang to strike with a big boot, followed by a back senton and a spear for another 2 count. Just as Banks regains control of the match again, the Coffey brothers get up onto the ring apron, leading to Moustache Mountain to run to the ringside to deal with the 2 members of Gallus. As all of this is going on the outside, Travis Banks sees an opening and dives through the ropes onto both of the Coffey brothers on the outside. At the end of the match comes when Wolfgang tries to suplex Travis into the ring from the outside when Trent Seven holds onto Wolfie's feet, allowing Banks to fall onto his opponent for the cover and the win thanks to the assist from Trent Seven. Seven and Bate raise Travis's arms in victory on the stage to end hour 2 of NXT UK. So, on to the NXT December the 5th show from Full Sail. This is the first show from the most recent set of tapings following TakeOver War Games a couple of weeks ago, and should show some storyline development heading to next month, TakeOver Phoenix. First up, we see Matt Riddle. Riddle's music, entrance and character is already over massively with the NXT crowd and will no doubt have a bright future in NXT and WWE. His opponent, Punishment Martinez, a mainstay in Ring of Honor, and his NXT debut tonight. There are dueling chants from the fans as this match gets underway. Punishment rocks Riddle with stiff blows, taking Riddle off his feet. Riddle is soon able to turn the tide with several kicks in the corner. Punishment Martinez prevented a running corner attack from Riddle by nailing the Bro with a brutal cyclone kick for a 2 count. Martinez stuns Riddle with a powerful clothesline before Riddle takes it to his opponent with a series of chops, kicks and back elbows, bringing Martinez to the canvas before attempting the Bro mission, which he's eventually able to apply for the submission win, and yet another impressive showing from the King of Bros. There were some bright spots in the match for Martinez in his debut, and it was a shame to see him up against the brightest prospect in NXT at the moment and losing in his NXT debut. However, as Riddle was making his way up the ramp and back to the locker room, he is attacked from behind with a huge elbow from Cassius Ohno, sending Riddle off the ramp as Ohno looks on. We then get a video package highlighting the human highlight reel Ricochet before getting a parking lot interview with the man himself with his North American Championship, where it's announced that he will be defending his North American Championship bout next week on NXT. Then we get a video package from Heavy Machinery, Otis and Tucker Knight. We then see a tweet from William Regal announcing that in 3 weeks there will be a fatal 4-way #1 contenders match for the NXT Women's Championship, with Bianca Belair being the first woman added to that 4-way match, having won a qualifying match a few days earlier, to see who will face Shayna Baszler at TakeOver Phoenix. Then we have a match between the Forgotten Sons versus Raul Mendoza and Alberto Carrillo. Cutler and Blake with Jackson Riker on the outside. Essentially, it was a bit of a squash match. There was some lovely lucha high-fly moves from Mendoza and Carrillo, and I would have liked to have seen more from these two in this match. The match ends when Cutler spikes Carrillo onto his head from the second rope before hitting their Scorpion Death Drop finisher for the win. We then get a backstage segment from the Undisputed Era. All of them are together in what appears to be the back of a van, actually. Bobby Fish addresses EC3, saying that he isn't just the guy, he is the guy that you've been warned about. Adam Cole reminds us that this is their era and that is undisputed. Then we get a match between Dakota Kai and Shayna Baszler. This is a non-title match, of course, Shayna Baszler being the NXT Women's Champion. Remember that Dakota Kai and Shayna Baszler had a bit of a mini feud earlier on this year. Shayna enters this match with her horsewoman stablemates, Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafira, and with all three of them in the ring, they look like an intimidating force. Kai strikes first blood with a socket kick and double foot stomp, taking Baszler to the outside. Baszler soon takes control by wrapping Kai's leg around the ring post. Once back inside, Baszler takes control with some joint manipulation, eventually snapping Kai's arm backwards as the fans chant "You suck" towards Baszler. Kai makes a comeback with a back mule kick followed by several short punts to the head of her opponent while hanging on to her hair. Kai takes it to Baszler with 2 running boots to the face, but Baszler is quick to make sure that she is not hit by a third as she nails Dakota Kai with a brutal looking knee to the face for a 2 count. Kai makes a brief comeback with another boot, this time flooring Baszler to the canvas before nailing a double foot stomp from the top rope for a 2 count. And Baszler counters an attack from Kai to hit a gut-wrench suplex before being able to apply her Karafuda clutch for the submission win. Baszler celebrates in the ring with her horsewomen stablemates, and after the win, all 3 members of the horsewomen lay in the boot to Dakota Kai until Io Shirai runs to the ring to make the save. That was a really fun, competitive match, furthering the story between Baszler and Co. against Kai and Shirai, who have allegiances with Kairi Sane, of course. Then we get a backstage vignette featuring Djokovic. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that correctly. Formerly Donovan Dijak from Ring of Honor, who I believe will be a featured player on NXT when he re-debuts very soon. We then get reigning NXT champion Tommaso Ciampa come to the ring and addresses the fans in attendance with Goldie, his championship bout. Tommaso starts by saying that another takeover is in the books and Tommaso Ciampa is once again the MVP. He has proved to be the man of his word. He has exposed the fairy tale and managed to turn the dream into a nightmare, and you still refuse to accept me as your NXT champion. He then goes on to point to the fans, saying that they don't believe in him, and the voice of NXT doesn't believe in him also, while pointing at Mauro Ranallo. But Mamma Mia, here I am. We then get the arrival of Aleister Black to interrupt Ciampa's promo. Aleister says at NXT TakeOver he absolved Johnny Gargano of his sins that you created, Puppet Master. Aleister then tells Ciampa that he wants to invoke his right to a rematch for the NXT title at TakeOver Phoenix. This prompts Johnny Gargano to enter onto the ramp to say that Aleister is getting ahead of himself, talking about a title rematch. Me and you are not finished. Thank you for absolving me of my sins, but this is over when I say it's over. Johnny and Aleister Black have a stare down in the centre of the ring before Tommaso Ciampa says that he loves when his former DIY partner leaves Johnny wrestling in the back, and you come out here and become a Johnny Badass. We then get a Johnny Badass chant from the crowd. Then Tommaso Ciampa starts getting involved as Black and Gargano stare each other down in the centre of the ring, ended by saying that he thinks they should end their feud the right way, inside of a steel cage. Black says that he will take on Gargano anywhere, including outside of the parking lot. Johnny stops him by saying, "The parking lot, how did that work out for you last time?" Black attempts a black mass on Johnny Gargano, but Johnny is quick to avoid it. However, Black tries a second black mass, this time on Ciampa, taking him clean out off the ring apron and to the floor as Gargano walks backwards up the ramp with Black's music playing to end the show. This was a great episode of NXT from beginning to end, with the closer segment further advancing the feud between Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano, with the subplot of who will be the next man to face Tommaso Ciampa, possibly to take on Ciampa at TakeOver Phoenix in January. That's all from this week's episode of Wrestling with Johners. I hope you enjoyed it. Later this week, I'll be doing a full rundown of Progress Wrestling's latest chapter, Chapter 79, which took place a couple of weeks ago. Apologies for not getting around to it so far. It's been a busy week work-wise, and one or two things. I'll also soon be reviewing, later on this week, NXT UK and NXT from December the 12th episode. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you have any questions about the show or any feedback, please get in touch. Just simply email wrestlingwithjohners@gmail.com. Give us your feedback, give us your thoughts, please get in touch. You can also get in touch via my Twitter page. Go to Twitter and it's @withjohners_WWJ, or visit my YouTube page by searching Johners Wrestling. I'll be back very soon for another episode of Wrestling with Johners, but in the meantime, please like and share this episode to your friends and family if you enjoyed what you heard. Take care and speak to you all soon.